One feature I've always wanted to see return to Gran Turismo 7 is race modifications. Race modifications haven't featured in Gran Turismo games since Gran Turismo 5, and that was 15 years ago. But with Gran Turismo 7's already advanced tuning and customization, and then of course engine swaps, race modifications may not seem like an addition that would be worthwhile or game-changing. But let's remember, no matter how much you tune your car up, it will never drive like a real race car. Race modifications could help that. And even things like changing the drivetrain and other things could be added this way too, taking car builds to the next level. And car builds are such a huge part of Gran Turismo 7, and a way for the community to explore our creativity. And race modifications would just add to that, giving us limitless possibilities. Now, I would assume race modifications, if they were added, to arrive in a free update, like engine swaps, selling cars, Spec 2 and 3. I mean, the power pack might say differently, now that we're getting paid DLC. And on the topic of the power pack, the image they used to advertise it has rumbled some rumours that race modifications might return. So we'll just have to wait and see, but nothing's confirmed right now. But if race modifications were added to Gran Turismo 7, how would they work? Well, let's take a drive down memory lane and see how race modifications worked in the previous Gran Turismo games. Now, where better place to start from than the beginning? And I mean literally the beginning. Race modifications were present in the original Gran Turismo for the PlayStation 1. Yes, while already a very ambitious game for the time, probably, Gran Turismo 1 and I were both released into the world in the same year, so I don't know how more advanced late 90s games were, but Gran Turismo 1 looks like it had to have been up there at the top. And with how limited technology was back then, race modifications were a very interesting addition, and possibly something people didn't explore as much as they maybe would have nowadays. The whole race modification system was the same for both Gran Turismo 1 and Gran Turismo 2, only Gran Turismo 2 had a lot more cars that could have race modifications applied. So I'll be talking about the PS1 era through the eyes of Gran Turismo 2 since it's the one I have a lot more experience with. So in Gran Turismo 2, you would take a rose car to the tune shop. Back then, it was found in each of the car's dealerships in the Gran Turismo mode, and from there you could check if your car could have race modifications applied by going to the Others tab, and from there, race modifications. If your car could have race modifications applied, you would see a preview of the completed build. And if not, you would get a message telling you your car couldn't have race modifications applied. But if your car could be fitted with race modifications, you still couldn't add them yet, as you would then get a prompt telling you to install Stage 3 weight reduction. So after you do that, you can then pay to have your car turned into a race modification vehicle. Obviously, with the limitation of the PS1 games, it's not so much a race car as it is just a lighter version of your car with a spoiler and custom livery. But the sentiment is still there. Power isn't increased or anything, so it's kind of more of a visual thing. But some of the race modification cars you can actually buy in the dealership or winner's prize cars. So all in all, race modifications still added a brand new car to the game, and you could still tune it up, adding more power, brakes, and different tyres. And I have found myself still using plenty of race modified cars in my Gran Turismo 2 playthroughs. Now obviously the biggest drawback here is the price of investment. It is not a cheap process whatsoever, about 85,000 credits plus the extra for Stage 3 weight reduction. Obviously you've got to buy Stage 1 and then Stage 2, and then of course also buying the car in the first place. So you are probably going to be spending over 100,000 credits. I had a series on my channel looking at the race modified cars from Gran Turismo 2. And the only reason I kinda stopped uploading it was because it was a very long process. Plenty of time-consuming credit grinds added in there too. Gran Turismo 2 had over 100 cars that were eligible for race modification, a step up from Gran Turismo 1. So back in the PS1 days, race modifications were maybe simple, but still an integral feature of the game. So, what happened on the PS2? Well, with the brand new hardware and capabilities of the PlayStation 2, we were treated to the largest graphical improvement from one game to another in the entire Gran Turismo series. And with these brand new graphics, everything had to be made from scratch. And so sadly that meant a lot of cars, tracks and features had to be stripped back. And race modifications were one such feature left in the pit lane. But with polyphony being unable to match the number of cars from Gran Turismo 2's car list, they instead officially made use of a pre-existing concept: Dream Cars. Dream Cars are fictionally made race cars created by polyphony. In most cases they honestly look very convincing, and as a kid I definitely thought they were real life race cars. But an easy way to tell what are dream cars and what are real cars is that dream cars often have plenty of polyphony logos on their livery. Now these dream cars would span their own dream car championship and become a staple of the Gran Turismo series to this day, minus the championship. And although for now dream cars officially seem to be a replacement for race modification cars, some race modification cars were upgraded to real life race cars, such as the Toyota MRS Super Auto-backed GT300 car and the Lister Storm. Although the Super Auto-backed MSR I'm pretty sure came out after Gran Turismo 2, so maybe that's not like a direct lineage, but it's as good as. And on a quick side note, a lot of the race modified cars in Gran Turismo 2 tended to have liveries based on real life race cars, which allowed for plenty of Easter eggs. And cars like the Jaguar XJ220 race car actually were race modification cars in Gran Turismo 2. Going into Gran Turismo 4, we'd see more dream cars added with Gran Turismo Concept, and also several changes to the dream cars, but that's a whole other story for another video. So like Gran Turismo 3, Gran Turismo 4 did not have any kind of race modifications either. Although one thing I didn't mention was that Gran Turismo 3 had tyre customization as the only form of car customization. But Gran Turismo 4 added to this and also included spoilers. You could change and add spoilers to a wide variety of cars in Gran Turismo 4, and this actually would give these cars downforce. So in some ways it was a very basic return to some kind of race modification. And also weight reduction has been a constant for all the Gran Turismo games too. Wrapping up the PlayStation 2 chapter, we move on to the PlayStation 3 chapter, and also the start of the HD era. And with that, Gran Turismo HD Concept, which introduced tuned versions of the cars that were included. So not quite race modifications, but they did have a T by their name to indicate they were tuned, similar to how race modified cars would have an R beside their name in Gran Turismo 1 and 2. So was this a sign of things to come? Well, with Gran Turismo 5 Prologue, several cars in the game were listed under the Concept Gran Turismo manufacturer. They were again listed simply as tuned cars. But if we slide over to Gran Turismo 5, several of these tuned cars would become the new race modification cars. Yes, after 11 years of a hiatus, race modifications returned to Gran Turismo 5. However, there was a massive downside. There were barely any cars that could utilize this feature. Gran Turismo 5 marked the start of the premium standard split. And say what you will about it, but without standard cars, Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo Cars 6's car roster would have been very small indeed. And as only premium cars, or detailed cars as they were called in Gran Turismo 6, were given race modifications, the feature really wasn't quite as fun as it was in Gran Turismo 1 and 2. But they still brought it back, so we can't complain too much. And it did change quite a bit from Gran Turismo 1 and 2. This time, weight reduction does not need to be added before race modifications are installed. Your performance points and power are increased a little too. So the change this time does have some performance increase. And the bodies are also changed with spoilers, splitters and other things. And also a number sticker is added as well. No custom livery this time though. You can change the paint colour scheme in the GT Auto and the number in the garage, but the Easter egg liveries were sadly no longer returning. I mentioned that several of the tuned cars from Gran Turismo 5 Prologue would become the race modification cars in Gran Turismo 5. These were the Corvette C6, Lotus Elise and the 111R, the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 9 and the Suzuki Cappuccino. Several of the other tuned cars were added as individual race cars, and then a few of them were never seen again. Cars like the Renault Sport Clio and Suzuki Swift were standard cars, so they couldn't receive race modifications in Gran Turismo 5, but that was a small sacrifice to make for the inclusion. And race modifications were actually a really good way of bypassing Gran Turismo 5's used car dealership. I remember needing to use the Corvette C6 for some of the late game events because I didn't have a fast race car at the time. And I also found these cars were quite good for rally events too, even though there's not really any rally events in Gran Turismo 5. But the option to use them as rally cars is there. So while race modification cars were not as expanded as in Gran Turismo 2, their inclusion in Gran Turismo 5 cannot be frowned upon. To me, they still provided a fun feature that I got use out of, that would sadly be short-lived. While Gran Turismo 6 continued to add to the list of cars, they did not bring back race modifications. Instead, the 17 race-modified cars from Gran Turismo 5 became standalone race cars you could buy in a dealership. And I guess since they are technically fictional builds, they also became dream cars. Gran Turismo 6 did add custom parts though, which were greatly expanded upon in Gran Turismo 7. So while you couldn't create race builds the same way you could in Gran Turismo 5, you could still get some customization in Gran Turismo 6. You could even add an extra meter too and change the colour of it, which is extra. But Gran Turismo 7 doesn't have that kind of customization. And speaking of Gran Turismo 7, that brings us back to the present. Car customization is greater than ever, tuning is more advanced, engine swaps are applicable for so many different cars. And added in Gran Turismo Sport, we can now create unique liveries. Dream cars also exist too. All that's really missing in the car customization front are race modifications. The only remaining remnant is the Honda Civic Type R touring car, a race modification for the Honda Civic Type R that became a standalone race car in Gran Turismo 6. So I guess what you're probably wondering now is, how would race modifications work in Gran Turismo 7? Well, honestly I don't know. I would like to think Polyphony would surprise us, like how they made a whole stock market for selling cars. I mean, I'd like race modifications to be a bit more interesting than just adding weight reductions or a spoiler and whatnot. And with the freedom of livery maker, I would like pre-made custom liveries to come with race modified cars too. And of course, most importantly, I would like race modified cars to feel like actual race cars. I mean, it's kind of in the name. Earlier this year, I made a wishlist video for Gran Turismo 7. Unsurprisingly, in that video I added race modifications as a feature I would like to see return. And also what I'd call the bare minimum for a concept. Now this particular concept might have worked better in Gran Turismo Sport, since race cars were balanced to the point of feeling like the same car no matter which one you were driving in class. But stay with me on this one. I imagine GT Auto would be where race modifications could be found. And from there, you would obviously take a car to the race modification section and convert it to a grouped car, with cars having a generic setup for each group. That of course being groups 1, 2, 3, 4 and B, with certain groups applying to certain cars. I mean, if your car can't be fitted with rally tyres, then it can't be a Group B car. And as I said in my wishlist video, it kind of be like what they did for cars like the Honda NSX, having various versions for various different groups. It's a very simple idea, but balancing is still a very prevalent restriction in Gran Turismo 7. So this would definitely be the easiest way to go, if not a little boring and predictable, but it would still allow us to take road cars and convert them into race cars if we so choose. And of course, you could still make your own builds to use the usual way. This would just be an optional change for those of us that like using race cars. But at this moment in time, race modifications are not confirmed to be returning to Gran Turismo 7 just yet. Hopefully they will return at some point, but for now, we make do with the solid tuning we have. Whether or not race modifications are added, I would like them to be free. I do appreciate we have been spoiled with free content for the past 3 years. But with Gran Turismo 7 already having a lot of customization, I think people would be more sold on the idea if it were a free update. But that's not for me to decide. And that is the end of this video. I plan to make more videos with this kind of deep dive approach, kind of like an entire history of, so if this change of pace was a video you liked, be sure to subscribe and stick around. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time!